Good morning, everybody. DAF Yudalid. On the top, we got to. This is really like in the middle of what we left off yesterday. The Gemara was discussing. Just a quick reminder here. Let's see. The Gemara was discussing whether or not the middle set of fasts has the 24 brachas in it. Oh, because we said the difference between an individual who accepts who's fasting and a tzibor, which we translated as a shliach tzibor, is the individual says 18 brachas, the Shemona Esrei, which we said was really 19, and the shliach tzibor says 19, which is really 20. But the Gemara asked, what do you mean? The shliach tzibor on a fast day says 24 brachas. So the Gemara said no. The Gemara tried a few different things. The Gemara says that's not in the first set, because there's three sets. The first one is 3 fasts, and then 7 fasts. So not in the first set. Then the Gemara challenged it because it's the same as the middle. So one of the answers was that in the first 2 sets there's no 24 brachas. The 24 brachas only applies to the last set of 7. And on that, the Gemara, this is pretty much where we ended. The Gemara asked, what do you mean? We have a brisa which says ein bain. There's no difference between the last set of 7 fasts and the middle set of 3 fasts. So if there's 24 brachas in the last set, there has to be 24 brachas in the middle set too. So the Gemara says, maybe we left out some of the differences. The Gemara says you can't leave out because it says ein bain. There's no difference, only this. So then the Gemara asked, what about the teva? The teva was the ark, the Aron Kodesh. They used to bring it out. We'll see in the next parak that they used to bring it out to the street. And that wasn't mentioned as one of the differences between the last set of fasts and the middle set of fasts. Therefore, you see, even when it says ein bain, there are still things that are left out. The Gemara says, no, you don't bring a raya from the teva, from the Aron Kodesh, because that's something that everybody sees. You don't have to discuss it. You don't have to mention it. It's mili defarhesya. So we're 3 lines from the top of Gedalia of an Aleph. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi says, Masnisin nami deka. We try a different raya. It's very similar. The Ravashi says, the Mishnah says, the Katani ma elu yiseiros al harishainos. This is Leganami, right. We're trying to show that the middle set and the final set of 7, both have 24 brachas, because it says in the Mishnah, Ma elu yiseiros al harishainos. What do these have more than the ones before it, more than the earlier fasts? These referring to the 7. In these, they cry out and they close the stores. But for everything else, everything's equal. That would include the 24 brachas. So you see from the words Ma elu yiseiros al harishainos, and we just listed 2 things: closing the stores and crying out. We'll see what crying out is soon in this Gemara. It doesn't make any changes in the Shemona Esrei. So if there's 24 brachas in the last set of 7, there's also 24 brachas in the middle set of 3. If you're going to suggest to say that here also the Tana left some things out, even though we said that the only differences are this and this, but he left some out. Tana v'shayir, ma'elu katani. We used the words of ma'elu, which is similar, like we were asking yesterday from ein bain. If you said ma'elu, it means only this is left out and nothing else. Only this is the difference and nothing else. So there's nothing left out. That's what it would seem. But Hizbra ma'elu dafka, do you think that really the words ma'elu means dafka, specifically only this is the difference between this set of fasts and this set of fasts? This seems like a repetition of the Gemara before. It's just a little bit different. We left out the Aron Kodesh, which was only in the last set of fasts and not in the middle set. So you can't say that we never left anything out. Imishum teva lav shiura hu mishum nekachashiv la beidach pirka. That is not a proof. You can't bring a proof from the Aron Kodesh, from the teva, because the teva that was brought out, it was brought outside in the last set of 7 fasts. That we mentioned in the next parak, beidach pirka. And since we mentioned in the next parak, it's not a kasha to say that, we left it out. Over here we were just discussing the things that we mentioned so far. So the only difference is that in the 7 fasts, that they close the stores and they cry out, they're masriyin, they cry out. But in the fasts before that, in the middle set, they don't have that. The teva, we'll talk about that in the next parak. That's the Gemara answers here. So for the Gemara, hashta the asas lahachi, if you're already saying, if that's the answer, when we talk about the 24 brachas, you can't. That's not a problem of leaving that out. If you're saying ein bain or what was the lashon we used today? Ma'elu in the Mishnah is ma'elu. The brisa was ein bain. If you're saying that the difference between the middle set and the last set is such and such, and we didn't mention anything about the 24 brachas, say the reason why we didn't mention it is because it's mentioned in the next parak, just like we said with the teva. Okay, so Gemara leaves it with that. My havi Allah. My havi Allah. So the question of my havi Allah here is whatever happened. So what's the halacha lemaisa? We were discussing yesterday about where to say anenu, right? This is really what this led us into this Gemara. But where do you say anenu? In Shemei Tefillah, or is it a separate bracha? So my havi Allah. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Sasratoi, v'chein Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Rav bein Goya l'Roifei. So you have some Amoraim here that hold that it's a separate bracha between Goyal and Raife. Right, between Goyal Yisrael and Rifa'inu. Excuse me, Rav Ashi, Rav Ashi says, Mishmei Rav Yanai, Berei Rabbi Yishmael, B'Shamei Tefillah. You put Anenu into Shemei Tefillah, it's not a separate bracha, it's its own bracha. V'Hilchasa, what's the halacha? B'Shamei Tefillah. You put it into Shemei Tefillah. So, I don't know if this is L'maisa halacha. The way we do it on a Taanis Tzibur is we say it in Shemei Tefillah, and the Chazan says it in Goyal L'Roifei. It says its own bracha. Tani Chada
covers both options.
Yeah, well, that's really what we said before also. That's the difference between a Yachid and a Tzibur. Tzibur meaning a Shliach Tzibur. Tani Chada, so the Gemara brings down one brisa, is going to be contradicting brisas. Tani Chada, in one brisa we learned that Ubrois Umenikais, pregnant women and nursing mothers, Mis'anois B'Rishonos Ve'ein Mis'anois Ba'achronos. They fast in the first set of fasts, which is the 3. Ve'ein Mis'anois Ba'achronos, and they don't fast in the last, in the Achronos, in the later fasts. We'll see what this means in a minute. But we assume at this point that it means they fast the first 3 fasts, and they don't fast the last 7. Again, because there's 3 sets of fasts, right? 3, 3, and 7. V'tanya Idach, another brisa teaches, Misanis ba'achronos, they fast the last set, which is the 7. Ve'ein misanis ba'rishonos, but they don't fast in the beginning, in the 3. V'tanya Idach, and a third brisa teaches that Ubrois and Menikos, ein misanis loy ba'rishonos v'loy ba'achronos, not on the first and not on the last. So what's going on over here? We seem to have a contradiction. 3 different brisas. Amar Rav Ashi says, Nakoit emtsiyasa biyadcha, dimitartzun lekulu. Mitartzun kulu. Rav Ashi says, what they should do is they should fast the middle set. The middle set of 3 fasts, pregnant and nursing mothers should fast. Why? Because dimitartzun kulu. You can explain that all 3 of these brisas meant that they fast in the middle one. How? The first one said that the first brisa said that these Ubros and Menikos fast in the first set, but not the last set. So what does first and last mean? First means first relative to the last, which means the middle. Rishonos doesn't mean first. Rishonos means the earlier ones. The earlier ones, the previous, yeah. So the middle ones are before the last ones. So it could be they mean that they do fast the middle ones. When they said Rishonos, yes, Achronos, no. So it could be the middle one. The second brisa said they fast in the later ones, but not the earlier ones. So the later ones could be the middle ones relative to the first ones. So they could also mean that they fast in the middle ones. Right? And the last brisa says they don't fast in the earlier ones, and they don't fast in the later ones. But in the middle ones, they do. So you could squeeze into all 3 brisas that in the middle fast, the middle 3, the Ubros and Menikos do fast. So that's why Rav Ashi says that's what they should do.
Not necessarily in the second brisa.
Why?
Because the second brisa says what? They fast.
Achronos, yes. Rishonos, no. So we're saying that Achronos mean Achronos relative to the first set, which is the middle. Because there's 3 sets. The same as the first one. Okay, now the Gemara continues with the Mishnah. It goes further on in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, "Ma elu yiseiros al harishonos." This set of 7, the last set of 7, what do they have more? Well, you mentioned this just before. What do they have more than the earlier ones? Elasha be'elu masriyin v'noyal inasachanuyos. In this set of 7, they cry out, and v'noyal inasachanuyos, they close the stores. B'mai masriyin. With what do they cry out? So yesterday I was translating Masriyan loosely as with a shofar. I assumed that, but here it's not so simple. B'mai masriyin, the Gemara says, with what do they cry out? Rabbi Yehuda Omar b'shofrais, with a shofar, like we thought. Rabbi Yehuda b'rei the Rav Shmuel, Rav Shmuel bar Shilas mishmei the Rav, so it's Rav, says v'anenu. They say anenu. They cry out to Hashem with the tefillah of anenu. So Rabbi Yehuda says it's with a shofar, and Rav says it's with anenu, with davening. At this point, we think that man da amar ba'anenu loy amar b'shofrais, uman da amar b'shofrais loy amar ba'anenu. Each one argues on the other, and it's only their way and not the other. It's either shofar and not tefillah, or tefillah anenu and not shofar. If that's the case, for Hatanya, we learned in a brisa. It says, "Ein poichsin misheva." In this last set of Taanis, the third set, "Ein poichsin misheva." It can't be less than 7 fasts. Misheva Taanis alat tzibur. What's this aleph? Ein poichsin misheva sheben. Right. Okay. Shebohen yurches hasrois. Which in these 7 there are 18 each day. That is really that there are 18 hasrois. This masriyin, this crying out, it's done 18 times. What's the 18 time? Okay, we'll explain in a second. V'simin ledavar yerichai. And a way to remember this is yerichai. Okay, the 18 times is because every day in the 7 days there's 6 extra brachas in Shemona Esrei. We go from the regular 18 to 24, which is 6. And in each bracha, they blew the shofar 3 times. So in the 6 brachas, 3 times 3 is 18. So there's 18 hasrois. They do this masriyin, this crying out 18 times in these 7 days. And the siman to remember that is Yerichai. Says the Gemara, Yerichai shofars have. In Yerichai there were shofars. In Yerichai they blew shofar. They blew the shofar. So v'tiyufta l'man amar ba'anenu. So this refutes. This is a proof that when we say masriyin, they cry out. It's with a shofar and not with anenu. Okay. Ela, says the Gemara. So this is only a kasha on the man amar that says anenu. If we assume, like we assumed before, that if you say anenu, it's anenu and not shofar, and shofar and not anenu. Ella says the Gemara, no. B'shofar is to kuliyam aloi pligi dekari lo hasra. Everybody agrees that shofar is considered hasra is shofar. Like when you blow shofar, that's a form of masriyin, of crying out. Ki pligi ba'anenu. The argument is by anenu. Mar savar kari lo hasra. One opinion holds that it's called hasra. It's called masriyin. Umar savar loy kari lo hasra. So it's a machlokes if anenu is considered hasra, crying out. Lamanda amar ba'anenu kol shekain b'shofrais. According to the one that says that anenu is also called hasra, certainly a shofar is. Lamanda amar b'shofrais ava ba'anenu loy. According to the opinion that says shofrais before, in the machlokes of what it is between Rabbi Yehuda and Rav. So the one that says shofrais, which is Rabbi Yehuda, ava ba'anenu loy, he'll hold anenu no. So, in fact, the Gemara of Hatanya, we have a brisa which says, "V'shar kol minei peranios." All other forms we've been discussing, the fast that we're talking about is because of rain. Shar kol minei peranios, other forms of suffering, misragshais, which misfortunes, that come to people, that come to communities, cities. Kegain chichuch, which is like some sort of blister, like a scratching, like a itch, dry blisters. Chagav is locust, like some sort of grasshoppers. Zvuv, flies. Vitzira, another form of flying insects, wasps. V'yatushin is mosquitoes. V'shiluach nechashim v'akravim, and snakes and scorpions were sent. So there, loy hayu masriyin, the brisa says, they didn't do masriyin, elot soyakin. So it seems like there's 2 different things here. Miditza'aka b'peh, Hatza'aka b'peh, who? Okay, the Bach adds in Hatza'aka b'peh. Tza'aka, crying out, screaming, yelling is with davening. Tza'aka is with your mouth, not with a shofar. So, Miditza'aka b'peh, hasra b'shofar. Must be that hasra, masriyin, that we're talking about in our Mishnah, is with a shofar. So you see again, this is a proof that it's a shofar is masriyin and not anenu, not davening. Says the Gemara Tanoi. It's a machlokes Tanoim. We have a different brisa which says the Tanya al elu al elu masriyin b'Shabbos. On these you're masriyin, you cry out on Shabbos. on the following, which is Al Ir Shekifua Gaius, on a city which was surrounded by soldiers, like they're taking over the city, like by ISIS or something like that. Oy Nahar, or like a river that overflowed. Va'al Svina, or a boat. Hamaturefes Bayam, which is like being thrown around at sea. Those things you cry out for on Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi Amar LeEzra. Rabbi Yossi says this that you cry out is only LeEzra, for help. Or Rashi says another way to explain it is that individuals can daven at home for a Yeshua, but simply it means with Ezra you cry out for people to come help you. But avaloi l'tzaka, but not for like tefillah. You don't cry out to Hashem on Shabbos. So what's this talking about? This brayso b'mai ilema b'shofar, that you blow shofar on Shabbos. Shofar b'Shabbos mishari. Is a shofar permitted to blow on Shabbos? They're not. Elolav ba'anenu. It must be, we're talking about anenu. V'kari la hasra. And we use the word hasra. Crying out, hasra. We explain afterwards that it's only for Ezra, not the tzaka. But the brayso used the word al-elu masriyan. And we're talking about anenu. So you see, it's a raya that there's another opinion in a Tana. There's another Tana that holds masriyan could even be tefillah, which is anenu. Shma mina. So you see that's a machlekes tanai. Says the Gemara, B'shnei de Rav Yehuda, in the years of Rav Yehuda Nesiya, Havit Sarah, there was a misfortune, there was like some sort of bad thing happening other than rain. It wasn't rain. It wasn't the lack of rain. But bad things were happening. It doesn't explain what it was here. Gozar Tlas Esrei Tainia. So he was Geyser, he decreed 13 fasts. V'loi Ani, and they still weren't answered. Savar Lemigzer Tzvi, he wanted to be Geyser more fasts. Amar Le Rav Ami. Rav Ami said to him, Harei Amru Ein Matrichin Es Hatzibur Yoser Midai. The Chazal said that you don't, you're not matriach, you don't bother the tzibur more than you have to. So you shouldn't establish more fasts. 13 is enough. The 13 comes from the 3, 3, and 7. That's 13. Amar Rav Abba Bereid, which we do by rain. Amar Rav Abba Bereid Rav Chia. Rav Bereid Rav Chia said, Rabbi Ami the Avad Legar Mehu the Avad. Rabbi Ami that convinced Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya not to be geyser more fasts was for his own personal reasons, because he didn't want to fast anymore. Rabbi Ami didn't want to fast anymore, so that's why he did it. But really, that's not proper. Ella Hachi Amar Rav Chia Bar Abba. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. It said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Loishanu Elo L'Gshamim. This that we said you don't fast, you're not matriach the tzibur more than you have to, more than the 13 fasts, was only for rain. Elo L'Gshamim. Aval L'Shar Minei Peranias, but for other misfortunes, Mis'anin V'holchin Ad She'anu Min HaShamayim. You continue fasting until you're answered from heaven. Tanya Nami Hachi. We even have a brayso which proves this, because it says in the brayso, K'sha'amru Shalosh, when we said 3, U'chasha'amru Shava, when we said 7 fast, Loi Amru Elo L'Gshamim. That was only said for rain. Aval L'Shar Minei Peranias. For other misfortune, Mis'anin V'holchin Ad She'anu. This is the brayso. It says that you continue fasting until you're answered. Leimat Havet Yufta to Rav Ami. Maybe this is, so we see this disproves Rav Ami, right? It's a raya against Rav Ami. Amar L'cho Rav Ami. Rav Ami would tell you, says the Gemara, Tanoihi. It's a machlekes Tanoim. The Tanya, because we have a brayso which says, Ein Goizrin Yoser Mishloish Esrei Tanya Salat Tzibur. You never decree more than 13 fasts on the Tzibur. Because you don't bother the tzibur, the public, more than you have to, more than you have to. Divrei Rebbe. That's only the words of Rebbe. That's not the reason. It's not because of tircha. The reason why is because you don't start fasting until Rosh Chodesh Kislev, according to the way we explained earlier. And you start off with 3, they wait, they do another 3, they wait, and then they do another 7. So at that point, it's already past the Revi'ah, the first season of when it should rain. At this point, they don't necessarily want it to rain. It's not necessarily a siman bracha. So therefore they stop fasting, but it's not because of tircha. But it seems that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would hold that otherwise, if not for that reason, they would continue to fast, even past the 13 fasts.
I use the lashon matriach. I mean, if you need hasala, I mean, it's not. If
still
you
a
don't
tircha.
need it, it's not a matriach, right?
No, but fasting.
It still is a tircha. What?
Fasting is not the only answer to bring
Well, we're not just talking about for rain, right? And we're not just talking about for rain. We're talking about for other types of.
Well, that's the question here. According to one opinion, you're not matriach l'tzibur more than that. But it seems not by rain, by other things, you do. You continue to fast until you're answered. It definitely is a tircha, whether a person's willing to go through the tircha or not. Granted, if you need it, you will do it, but it's definitely called a tircha. Chazal said, "Ein matriachin as hatzibur yoser midai." Okay. Shalchu le b'nei Ninveh, the people of Ninveh sent to Rebbe. Kigoyin anan, for example, people like us, da'afilu b'tkufas Tammuz, even in Tammuz, even in the summer, but inon mitra, where we need rain, so like a place like Chutz La'aretz, hechi navid, how should we do it? So if they need rain and it's not raining, what should they do? Like what would be the process? Ki yechidim diminan, are we considered like yechidim? Oy kerabim diminan, or like are we considered like a tzibur, like rabbim? Ki yechidim diminanu b'shemei tefillah. If we're like yechidim, then we would say anenu. We would fast and say anenu in shemei tefillah. Or rather, we would ask for rain in shemei tefillah. I think that's what I mean. Where's the Rashi here for a second? Right. Rashi says, for like you would ask for rain in Shemei Tefillah. Oy kerabim, or is it like a rabbim diminon ubebirchas hashanim, and you'd ask for rain like we say of Saint Talmatar in birchas hashanim in the bracha of Barei Choleinu. So that was the question. Are we considered like a yachid, does it in Shemei Tefillah, or are we considered like a rabbim and we continue doing it in Barei Choleinu, even though like in Eretz Yisrael they don't say, they say V'sein bracha. So that was the question that they asked to Rebbe. So he sent back to them. You're compared to a yachid ub'shemei tefillah. You do it in shemei tefillah. Meisvei, fact the Gemara from a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda says, when do we go through the order of fasting? That's only when the years are proper, like we're living in Eretz Yisrael and everything is set up the way it is. That means that the harvesting season is in Nisan and the planting season is in Cheshvan. Avo b'zman hazeh hakol lefi hashanim. Hakol lefi hamakoymos, hakol lefi hazman. Today, or the zman hazeh, in this time, when we're not in Eretz Yisrael necessarily, and we're all spread out over the world, so everything goes according to the years, the place that you live, and the time. Everything goes according to whatever's going on in that place. So it should seem that they should be like a tzibur. Amar lei masnisa ramis alei. The Rebbe, you're asking from a brayso or from a mishnah onto Rebbe. Rebbe Tana, who polig. Rebbe's also a Tana. So what are you asking me of Meisvei from a brayso? Rebbe's also a Tana, so he argues. Upalig. Okay, my havi Allah. What Lamaisa? What should they do in Invei or in places that it rains, that they need the rain in the summer? Rav Nachman Amar Berchas Hashanim. So it's a machlekes. Rav Nachman says they do it in Berchas Hashanim in Baruch Aleinu. Rav Sheshes Amar b'Shemei Tefillah. V'Hilchasa b'Shemei Tefillah. They should do it in Shemei Tefillah. They're like a yachid. Dr. Gemara BAYT. We said in the Mishnah that in the last set of fasts, in the 7 fasts, so on Monday they used to close the stores, and on Monday towards the evening they used to open it a little bit. They opened the door a little bit, and so people could just get what they need for that night to break their fast. And on Thursday they opened the stores all the way, the whole day, because of Kavod Shabbos. Everybody needs to shop for Shabbos, but otherwise they're closed. Iboyelahu fekti Gemara. Heichi kotani. Bebeis matin im chashecha ubehei kol hayoy mipnei kvod haShabbos. How do we understand the Mishnah? On Monday they opened it a little bit. They opened it only a little bit towards night, and on Thursday they opened it the whole day, all the way because of Kavod haShabbos. Oidilma b'sheni matin ubechamishi peischin kol hayoyim kulay. So if I understand correctly, the Gemara's question is, on Monday, they opened the door a little bit, just towards night. But on Thursday, they opened the door a little bit the whole day. Or, on Thursday, did they open the door all the way? They opened it all the way, a whole day. Toshma, the Tanya, we have a brayso which says, B'sheni matin at ha'erev. On Monday, they opened it a little bit till evening. U'b'chamishi peischin kol hayayim kulay. They used the word peischin. They opened the door all the way because of Kavod Shabbos. Now, this brayso teaches us another din. If there were 2 doors to your store, open one and close the other. if there's a bench in front of the store, so it blocks the doorway, you don't see right in. So then, if there's it's the book Keneged Pischoi, Paisech Kedarkoi ve'enei chayshish. You could open it all the way and you don't have to worry. So there's a machlokes rishonim over here whether this is talking about Monday or Thursday. I think Rashi says it's talking about Monday. That even on the Monday where you're not allowed to open your store all the way, if you have a bench in front of it, you're allowed to open it all the way. And if you have if you have two doors, then you could close one and open the other. So it's a leniency on the Monday. I think it's the Rambam that learns that it's a stringency on the Thursday.
What's this whole discussion? The partial open, fully?
I think because it looks like business as usual, like everything's fine and dandy if the store shutters are wide open. But if everything's closed and you just open the door a little bit, it shows that we're in a somber state. That's just the way I understood it. I don't know for sure if that's the
Makes sense.
Avru Eilu v'lo na'anu, the Mishnah continued and said, if those days passed and they still weren't answered, so then they don't necessarily. I don't think they're fasting. We said that the individuals fast, but at that point, matan you minimize maso. Matan usually means like business, ubinyan ubinatia, and building and planting. Tana. The Brisa says, "Binyan shel simcha." When we say binyan, we mean a binyan shel simcha, a binyan which causes happiness. Natia is natia shel simcha, planting of simcha. Ezel binyan shel simcha. What is that? If you're building like a wedding hall for your son, for your child's chasana, so that causes you happiness. Ezu hi natia shel simcha. What's considered a planting of simcha? It's planting this kind of. So there's two ways to explain this. Either that when a king's son was born, so they planted a tree, and then when he became king, they cut down this tree and made a throne from that tree. So people also took on this practice, non-kings, regular people, that when they had a child born, they planted a tree in his honor, whatever. So that's called a Natiyah Shel Simcha. Or the other pshat is a tree, this Abvar Naki Shel Malachim is a certain kind of tree which causes a lot of shade, and the king used to take his stroll, walk under it. So people also adapted it, maybe rich people or something that wanted to feel like kings, so they also planted these kind of trees. That's called a Natiyah Shel Simcha, which was, they didn't do it at this time where it wasn't raining. Ub'she'elas shalom. We also said in the Mishnah that at this point we minimize things, we minimize binyan, natiyah, and she'elas shalom. That means like greeting others. Tanur Rabbanon, we learned in the Brisa, Chaverim, which refers to Talmidei Chachamim, Ein she'elas shalom beinehem. There's no greeting one another, because they know they adhere to the law. Amei ha'aretz, the ignorant, the people that are not Talmidei Chachamim, Sheshoyalin, that greet the Talmid Chacham, they wish they say hello, Machzirin lahem. They answer them b'safa rafa, in ubekovid roish. They answer them like in a somber tone and like their head bent down. So to show that things are not business as usual. V'hein misatvin v'yoshvin ka'avelim u'kamenudin, and they sit like wrapped. I think it means in like sackcloth, or maybe that's the more after that. But they sit wrapped like maybe a talus on their head, misatvin. Like mourners and excommunicated people, kibnei adam hanazufin l'makam, like people which were chastised by the Hashem. They're not being answered. It feels they're not being answered. Ad she'yirachamu aleim min hashamayim. They do this until Hashem has mercy and sends the rain. Amar Rabbi Elazar says, "Ein adam chashav rashai lipo al panav." This seems like we're going into the Indian here. An Adam Chashuv is not allowed to, like they used to by Tachon, or they put down their head, or means lay on the floor. An Adam Chashuv is not allowed to put down his head and daven, Elohim kein nene, unless he's for sure going to be answered. Ki Yeshua ben Nun. Like Yeshua ben Nun. Shenemar, Vayomer Hashem el Yeshua, Kum lech, get up and go. Lama ze ata noifel al panecha. Why are you falling on your face? Why are you putting your head down? The Amar Rabbi Lazar. So you see there that he did it and he was answered. The Amar Rabbi Lazar, Ein Adam Chashuv Rashai Lachgor Sak. Adam Chashuv is not allowed to don sackcloth, which is a form of like mourning, or like when they fasted they used to. Adam Chashuv is not allowed to wear it because it's like it's a bezayah and it's degrading. Now, Adam Chashuv is not allowed to put on sackcloth. Unless he's going to be answered like Yehoram, the son of Achav. Shanemar v'yihi k'shmaya hamelech es divrei ha'isha. When the king heard the words of the woman, v'yikara es begadav. I think there was a fast in that time. V'yikara es begadav. He ripped his clothing. V'hu oiver al achayma, and he came to the wall. V'yar ha'om v'hine hasak al basarei, and the nation saw that he was wearing sackcloth. So the Psukim after that say that he was answered.
Mordechai.
What?
I mean, how do you know milchachila that you're going to be answered?
Good question.
Right, and then Mordechai, how did he know he was going to be answered?
Yeah.
And he did it.
I don't know. Good question. I guess you have to be on the level where you feel, maybe it means you have to be on the level of Yeshua, or the level of Yehoram. I don't think was a good king. I think he was a Rasha, but he was answered nonetheless. It's a good point. I don't know. Okay, the Gemara says. I'm sorry. For Amar Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Lazar has another thing. Loi hakol b'kriya. Not everybody is answered by ripping their clothing. V'loi hakol b'nefila. Not everybody is b'nefila, like laying down, putting their head down, like kachna. Moshe v'Aaron b'nefila. Yeshua v'kolev b'kriya. Yeshua v'kolev by ripping their garments. Moshe v'Aaron b'nefila d'chsiv v'yipol Moshe v'Aaron al paneim. It says they fell on their face, and they were davening. Yeshua v'kolev b'kriya d'chsiv. Yeshua and Kolev ripped their clothing. D'chsiv Yeshua ben Nun v'kolev ben Yefune. Karu bigdehem. They ripped their clothes by the Meraglim, right? Maskif lo Rav Zera. Rav Zera challenges this. V'item Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani. Some say it was Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani. Ihav iksiv Yehoshua. Then Kiddush Amr. Then you're right. If it would have just said Yehoshua. Hashad iksiv v'Yehoshua and Yehoshua havaha avid. It doesn't mean that he only ripped his clothing. It means Yeshua and Kalev also ripped their clothing in addition to Nefila, in addition to falling down. Not everybody will be greeted with standing up, and not everybody will be greeting with bowing down. Malachim will greet Klal Yisrael when Mashiach comes. The kings will greet us b'kima, standing up. The sarim and the ministers b'hishtachavaya, with bowing down. Malachim b'kima d'chsiv. Malachim by standing up straight, d'chsiv, because it says in the pasuk, Koyamar Hashem, Goyal Yisrael. So says Hashem, the Redeemer of Israel, Kedoshai, Levaze Nefesh, to the Messiah of Goy, to the ones who are like in a state of bizayin, the ones that need to be redeemed, I guess. The Messiah of Goy, Le'eved, or Laved. Where's this pasuk here? Le'eved, Moishlim Malachim, Yiru v'kamu. The kings will see and stand up. And the pasuk continues and says, Sarim v'yishtachavu. That's going to be the next line of the Gemara. So you see that the kings stand up straight to greet the people. V'sarim v'yishtachavaya. How do you know that the ministers are with bowing down? D'chsev sarim v'yishtachavu. Maskiv lo Rav Zera. Rav Zera asks again, V'item Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. Ihavi ksiv v'sarim yishtachavu. Then you're right, Kiddush Amrit. Hata d'ksiv sarim v'yishtachavu. The ministers and they will bow. It seems to say, to imply, v'ha. They do both. They do bowing down and standing up. Amar Rav Nachman. Okay, that's the challenge on that. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Afani Omer. I also say, Lo hakol la'oira, v'lo hakol la'simcha. Not everybody will merit to see the light in the world to come. V'lo hakol la'simcha. Not everybody will merit simcha, happiness. Tzadikim la'oira, the tzadikim, the righteous, will get the light. V'yisharim, and those who are straight, like upright, l'simcha. They'll merit happiness. Yisharim are those who are yashar, I guess.
Is that tzadikim yashar?
Yeah.
Honest?
Yeah, I think it means more than just honest people. I don't know exactly what it's referring to. You have to look in the Mefarshim. Yisharim doesn't say here. So how do you know this? The chsiv ar zarua la tzadik. The ar is for the tzad. The zarua la tzadik. Uli yisharim simcha. Lisharm simcha. How do we know? The same pasuk says Uli Yishrei Leib simcha. Hadin Relach Me'emasai B'li Neder.
Beautiful.
Okay.